Right.
A couple weekends ago, I was visiting with one of your players, and I asked Josh and a couple of the guys about it, and he was referring to the offensive line. He goes, man, those guys love playing with Carmen. And so that's very rare. You usually players I play for this guy or whatever, and talking to the offensive line, and Josh, you have a special relationship with them. You're hard on them, but they just love you and have included you as if you're one of their own. Will you talk about that relationship? How do you build that?
Well, first, I appreciate you saying that, because that is something that I think is at my core philosophy of no matter what it is, a player has to know first and foremost you care about them as an individual, and if you're genuine about it, then I think you're permitted, and there's a level of trust in that you can push them, and that is the idea of a coach. I mean, if they didn't need coaches to take them from where they are now to where they can be, then there'd just be 11 players on offense, 11 players on defense out there, and there'd be no coaches around. But obviously, coaches are required for that. But to do that, you have to build a level of trust. And how do I do that? I'm honest. I'm genuine. I enjoy them. They know I enjoy them. But at the same time, there's a line. There is. But with a group that's, a positive group that are fun to be around, sometimes that seems like that line can almost get blurred, because, it is a group of guys that I enjoy being around. But I think first and foremost, you just demonstrate it through making sure they know they're important. If a player comes to your meeting room and they want to have a talk, well, then you stop what the heck you're doing and you have that conversation. Be in the moment with them when you're with them.
You got
everyone's kind of starting from ground zero. There's an element of that. But I would imagine last year was the epitome of ground zero with this offensive line and new coaching staff. How much further along would you say that you guys are at this point compared to last year?
I think the biggest thing is when you have, like you're describing, the continuity would be an understanding of what expectations are. But by no means are you ahead. You have to pay it. You can't just say, okay, building on what you did last year, okay, they know what an ace block is, but the work in doing an ace block, you have to pay that. So we're at the same exact spot we were last year at this year, which is working on our fundamentals and communication with one another and understanding our assignments. And then there's new assignments. It's not like, okay, hey, this is the only thing we're going to do. This is the offense. Like, there's new things to learn and grow on. So you're always in a state of improving. Old coaches saying you're either green or you're growing, or you're ripe and you're dying. Like, you're always trying to improve. So it's not like, okay, hey, listen, we've reached that status. We haven't. So by any means,
Carmen, you guys brought back a lot of the same players from last year, and something that Coach McDaniel said is, improvement doesn't necessarily have to come from, addition in terms of bringing in new people. What goes into improving this unit that you have in terms of a lot of the guys that started the games last year and trying to continue to push the unit?
There's a lot of thought as we look. As soon as the season's over, coaches obviously catch their breath for a second, and then you're right back to it. And you look as an individual player, you look at the unit, and you look at the offense. And we as coaches then are meeting and putting on our input. As you look at an individual basis, what is their technique? What is perhaps their body composition? What is their injury status? And you're going to try to improve on that. As a group, there's themes that you'll say, boy, gosh, I wish we were better at this. Man, we really did well at that. How can we maximize that? What plays do we have to run to maximize what we do well? So then you kind of continue to grow and build, as we kind of already talked about. But you look at it as an individual basis, then a unit basis, and say, all right, what do we need to improve on? Because absolutely, there's plenty of things that we need to improve on. It doesn't matter where it is. Like I said, it's that 1 year from the next doesn't matter. You've got to put in the work each year to be able to have success.
And are there specific areas from last year that you feel like stood out in terms of things that you really hone in on coming in OTAs and training camp?
Yeah, absolutely. And then that's a part of that conversation that you have with your players of, hey, listen, just being honest. Like, it's us. And a part of that, going back to that other answer, is you close the door and it's us. It's us in the room. We have honest conversations like X, Y, Z. We stunk at. We need to be better at. Or, hey, I really appreciate how good you were at this. I want to get everybody else to do this if it's an individual. But I'm not in the business of helping my opponents.
Brandon Parker's a guy that you guys could have let go. I mean, injury, and they decided, no, we're going to keep him around. We like what we saw before the injury. What does he bring to this team that you guys said, hey, I think he's worth keeping around. We like him. What do you like about his game?
Yeah, certainly. Obviously, in the business, players come and go, and that's a part of it, as coaches as well. But Brandon, like a lot of the other guys in the room, we've got 16 of them working. He fits, I think, our mold that we like. And it's true of Brandon. He's smart, he's tough, and he loves football. Like, I mean, those are the characters that we want, and he encapsulates that. And everybody has it, and they wouldn't be in the room if they didn't. So he's a part of that mold. He's been working hard. We're very happy, like the rest of the guys. Obviously fitting into that puzzle piece. We'll figure it out as we continue to work on. But he's a dedicated guy who cares about his craft, and he's smart, and he approaches it the right way. And he's a good leader in the room. So we're happy to have him.
Clearly, you haven't had pads, and I know that, but you like something about Greg Van Roten that said, "Hey, I want to bring that guy in here." Tell us what you like about him, what you think he offers you.
Yeah, I think as you're looking at players and bringing them into your room, player acquisition happens a bunch of different ways. But again, I don't want to be that it's boring sometimes at the O-line position. I mean, truly smart, tough, athletic enough. Greg is a guy. I mean, he graduated from Penn. He's played a lot of football. He has a general familiarity with our system, having played in Buffalo, and there's some same as. And he's a guy that has a good, serious mindset. He fits what mold we feel is important for offensive linemen, just like the other 15 guys in the room.
Do you last year you guys it took a while for you guys to settle on a starting five, so it went into the season. Actually.
Yeah.
Do you go into this season still? I mean, with that kind of a mindset that there's still jobs that are open, starting jobs that are open.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of competition in this business, and a part of that of getting your best out of somebody is battling complacency. But I mean, truly, to say that there's competition, that's a reality, and the room knows it. Like we are in competition, absolutely. And the best five, but at our position too, it's not the best five. It's going to be 8 or 9. Gosh, we went to the Patriots. We were playing guys that we had been here and left and brought back, and you can't count on any one thing. So you got to make sure you have plenty prepared. But yeah, there's plenty of competition in the room, and the guys that recognize that they're not ignorant to it.
Thayer Munford, just visually looking at him, he looks like he's put on some good weight and typical going from one year to the next.
Yeah.
What's been your assessment so far of him, and is he a candidate to be somebody that ends up with a starting job?
I mean, I think Thayer afforded himself well as a rookie and have an opportunity to play over 300 snaps for us last year, but that's last year. So, it's funny for me. I've always, you guys know, I was such a long-time college guy, and I thought, boy, when you send them, you've done on your part, and then you realize even a guy like Thayer who comes from Ohio State, and that's a tremendous program, and they take training seriously. I'm seeing the maturation and the physical development of these guys, Dylan and Thayer, and the guys just from year 1 to year 2 to year 3, and he's doing his part like the other guys are. But certainly he's a part of that conversation of competing. I mean, that's
Is there any possibility of guard for him at all, or is he strictly tackle?
I would say that if I could predict the future, they'd pay me a lot more money. I don't know. I mean,
Right.
we've got plenty of competition all the way around to go.
Maybe?
So
Cross-training him?
I wouldn't say that's something that necessarily we would think about, but we're not against anything. I mean, we can play guys almost anywhere. So
McClendon, this is a UDFA, but he's a grinder, especially I was talking to his coaches about the fact it didn't matter what you threw at him, he just attacked it. Really kind of has a Carmen mindset. Reminds me a lot of you. What do you see in him?
He's a positive young man who loves football. I love to tease him. We're 2 FCS guys, so I tease him about it. And I hope he knows where I'm coming from, because I played FCS football and coached at it so long. But he's a young man. I just said it today to the group that nothing worth having is easily gotten, and you can't achieve anything without enthusiasm. If you don't have a passion for this game, like you're just playing with one arm tied behind your back. And he's definitely one of those guys that has that passion and he's going to enjoy. And then it goes back to what you're saying about playing with or playing for. Like, he's one of those guys in a room that the room likes, and we can have fun in there a little bit because you're surrounded by these guys and coaches and players more than you see your own family. So you better enjoy the people you're around.
I'm working on a feature on you, and so I'm going to ask you a question. It isn't necessarily Raiders, but talk about your love of the game. Your players talk about that you get sweaty and yelling and screaming like you're going out on the field. Where's that come from with you, Carmen?
I don't know. Well, I mean, obviously I played it and I did other things. I was away from football for 6-7 years. It was mid-20s. So many American males kind of lose themselves. I don't know what the heck they're going to do with their life, and I was one of them. And then I found myself back. I was coaching high school football, and so I've coached at all levels of football, 8th grade to start. And I can remember thinking, like, just the joy of that. And I tell my players now, the best part of my day is from the moment you walk in the meeting room till you get done with practice, and if you expect them to have passion and love of the game, then you better demonstrate it as well. And then, I may or may not have been known to throw a hat or two, and that's probably an ode to my grandfather, who was an old Italian farmer, really is what he was. And if you were screwing something up in the field, you catch a hat thrown, and you knew he was in your row, he was coming to yell at you. So, I've caught myself doing that, and that's very unprofessional. I tell my players that, not to. But nevertheless, I can't help it. Sometimes I'm just going to have to display it, and then, I always say, you can curse the darkness or you can light a candle. I'm done cursing the darkness after 2 seconds. I'm trying to figure out how can we get better.
I want to take you back because 2 of your players mentioned a situation where they kind of, for all better word, fell in love with you. And it was right after the 53-man roster was made last year.
Okay.
And you walk into a room with your offensive lineman and talked about, do you realize how special it was you just made the Las Vegas Raiders?
Yeah.
And you talked about how every day when you step in your office, I made it, I'm here.
Yeah.
And appreciating the moment that won them. And I'm curious about that moment for you and the love and appreciation you have that I get to do this every day.
I hope I'm able to appreciate it. Number one, I have a wife that keeps me grounded. But then I've coached and played at small levels, and I just marvel sometimes when I walk in my office and I see my nameplate with an organization that has such rich history. Josh bringing the guys back, and the Hall of Famers and Super Bowl champions that came back last week, and we were able to be around 2 weeks ago. And you just sit there in awe, and you just realize that you're a part of something that is so big. But then at my core, I'm a very in-the-moment, temporal. Tomorrow is promised to no one. What do we have to do today to get better, to achieve our goals? And it's about today, just trying to win today. So, when I told those guys that last year, they can do it. This is a hard job. Physically, mentally, it takes a toll on all of us, players and coaches. And it's not bad to, every little bit, to take a breath, appreciate it, and then say, okay, what's next?
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys.
Take care.
I really do.
Last one, actually 2 more, but it's going to be a long feature on you.
I appreciate that.
I'd like to go back and ask you if you're comfortable about your family.
Yeah, sure.
Because the guys talk about, you're constantly talking about your family. And in a sport that a lot of people don't have roots,
Yeah.
you do. And you're a root to these guys. You've become family to your players.
Yeah, I think that's, again, you can't push somebody until they know you care about them. And to do that, you have to know, all right, what is their family situation? What's that like? Because, when you come in and they're having a bad day, you can't assume it's you. There's a train track of emotions and interactions that are right up until that moment that you meet them and talk to them. And you know full well that they're having a bad day because maybe their wife was upset with them because they didn't take the trash out, or because, they're worried about, a family member, a sick one, or, whatever it may be, or not having enough, money to keep the lights on. We have all these, things. So, you genuinely care about them. And then, we're in this together, like I said, And then as far as talking about my own family, my parents were separated, and my mom raised us, so we have a lot of shared experiences, I think, in the room. It's just the nature of our society and life, and I also share with them about my own wife. Like my wife likes to bake them cookies, or I tell stories, to relate to the guys that I'm a young, I'm a father of a young daughter. I'm 46 years old and I got a toddler.
Hey, I'm 52 and have a newborn, 11 months.
I love it. Congrats.
Adopted.
Congrats. You got me beat.
Adopted. Can you believe it?
Yeah, that's awesome. So,
One of your players really, I thought, described you super well. He said to me, a lot of coaches MF you, rip you. He goes, I don't mind that. He goes, but Carm, he'll tell you you effed up, but never call you an F up. And he goes, he loves us. He goes, I think it would devastate him if he ever called us. I mean, again, I know I'm going to the angle, but I was honest and told you we're doing a feature. That's an interesting approach to coaching that a lot of coaches don't take. Where did that come from with you?
A lot of times I'll say to them, you got to set it to receive. Take a breath. Probably a child of a split family and some defensive mechanism, learning tool. I don't know, but my core philosophy, one of my core philosophies as a coach and teacher is, hate the sin, not the sinner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. Don't curse the darkness, light a candle. well, there's a pony in here somewhere. If you know that adage, if you know what I'm talking about, Ronald Reagan
Yep.
used to tell that story. Like just stay positive with it. Yes, you screwed up. Yes, I'm upset about it because I'm passionate about getting it right. Especially if we walked through it, talked it, coached or whatever. You're going to know that yes, you fouled up and you're supposed to get that right. We're paid to get it right. But I'm over it. Why did you screw up? Hate the sin, not the sinner. And all right, instantly, like, let's solve the problem. Like, oh, you had bad eyes, or well, why did you do that? I heard Matt Millen was talking about, one of the old guys was talking, well, coach me. Actually, I'm so sorry. I attributed actually to the wrong person. When we had the veterans in, Art Shell was talking about one of the most influential coaches that he had been around. Had said, well, why did you do that? And like I tell players, coach me. Like, I want to hear why they may have screwed something up. I want to hear it from them, and then you can get to the root of, well, you know what? I really wish if you'd stepped this way, or really your eyes need to be there, or you were wrong because of. You just can't yell to yell, or not try to solve the problem. So.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Carmen.